Welcome to the world of C++ concurrency. In this presentation, we will explore how to build concurrent applications using modern C++ features. We will cover threads, synchronization techniques, asynchronous programming, and parallel algorithms. Let's dive in and see how we can make our applications faster and more responsive. So, why bother with concurrency in C++? There are several compelling reasons. First, it allows us to efficiently utilize multi-core processors, which are standard in today's computers. By running tasks in parallel, we can significantly speed up our applications. Second, concurrency improves application responsiveness. By offloading long-running tasks to separate threads, we prevent the main thread from being blocked, ensuring a smooth user experience. Third, it helps separate concerns in program design, making code more modular and easier to maintain. Fourth, concurrency enables handling input-output operations without blocking, allowing the application to remain active while waiting for external resources. Finally, it facilitates processing large datasets in parallel, drastically reducing processing time. Here's a simple thread example in C++. We include the iostream, thread, and vector libraries. The process data function simulates work being done by a thread. In main, we create a vector of threads and launch 4 threads, each running the process data function with a unique identifier. Finally, we join the threads, waiting for each to complete before the program exits. Let's discuss C++ thread basics. When creating threads, the standard thread class is used, and it can accept function objects, lambda expressions, member functions, and free functions. Arguments can be passed by value or by reference. For managing threads, the join function waits for a thread to complete, while detach allows a thread to run independently. The get_id function retrieves a unique identifier for a thread, and joinable checks if a thread can be joined. Hardware_concurrency gives a hint of the number of concurrent threads supported by the hardware. When considering thread safety, remember that race conditions can occur, leading to data sharing issues. Exception safety and deadlocks are also crucial considerations, along with proper thread lifecycle management. Keep in mind that every thread must be either joined or detached before its standard thread object is destroyed to avoid program termination. Now let's delve into data sharing and race conditions. A race condition occurs when multiple threads access shared data simultaneously, and at least one thread modifies the data. This can lead to unpredictable results, corrupted data, program crashes, and hard-to-reproduce bugs. Race conditions are among the most challenging bugs to find and fix in concurrent programs. Consider this example. We have a global counter initialized to 0. The increment function increases this counter. 2 threads, T1 and T2, both call increment, intending to increment the counter 1,000,000 times each. Without proper synchronization, the actual final value of the counter will be unpredictable due to the race condition. This is because the increment operation is non-atomic. To tackle race conditions, we use mutexes. A mutual exclusion object prevents multiple threads from accessing shared data simultaneously. Key mutex types include standard mutex, which is a basic mutex, recursive mutex, which can be locked multiple times by the same thread, timed mutex, offering timeout capabilities, and shared mutex, a reader-writer lock available from C++ 17. To simplify mutex usage, resource acquisition is initialization wrappers like standard lock guard, standard unique lock, and standard scoped lock are available. These wrappers automatically release the mutex when they go out of scope, preventing common mistakes. Here's an example where we fix the race condition using a mutex. We declare a mutex named counter_mutex to protect the counter variable. Inside the increment function, we create a standard lock guard, which automatically locks the mutex when it's created and releases it when it goes out of scope. This ensures that only one thread can access and modify the counter at a time, preventing the race condition. Now, the final value of counter will always be 2000 as expected. Condition variables are synchronization primitives that allow threads to wait until a specific condition occurs. The key operations are wait, which blocks a thread until notified and the condition is true, notify_1, which wakes up one waiting thread, and notify_all, which wakes up all waiting threads. Always use condition variables with a mutex to protect the shared state and prevent loss wakeups. Here's an example of the producer-consumer pattern. We include the necessary headers: iostream, thread, mutex, condition variable, and queue. We declare a queue of integers named data_queue, a mutex named queue_mutex, a condition variable named CV, and a Boolean variable named done initialized to false. In the producer function, we loop 10 times, pushing the current value of I into the data_queue while holding a lock on queue_mutex. After pushing the data, we notify the consumer using cv.notify_1. Futures and promises provide a mechanism for accessing the result of asynchronous operations. Standard future represents a value that will be available in the future, while standard promise sets the value for an associated future. Standard async runs a function asynchronously and returns a future, and standard package task wraps a callable object to store its result. Here's how to use standard async for asynchronous execution. We include iostream, future, and chrono headers. The compute value function simulates a long computation by sleeping for 2 seconds and then returning 42. In main, we launch the compute value function asynchronously using standard async and store the resulting future in result. While the computation runs in the background, we print working ... to the console. Finally, we retrieve the result using result.get, which will wait if the result is not yet ready, and print the result to the console. Atomic operations are operations that complete in a single step relative to other threads, without any possibility of interruption. Standard atomic of type T is a thread-safe wrapper for values. Memory ordering controls how memory operations are ordered. Common atomic operations include load, store, exchange, and compare_exchange. Atomic flags are the simplest atomic type, represented by standard atomic flag. Here's an example of using atomic operations. We include the iostream, thread, atomic, and vector headers. We declare an atomic integer named counter initialized to 0. Inside the increment function, we loop iterations times, incrementing the counter using the increment operator. This increment is atomic, so no mutex is needed. In main, we launch 2 threads that each increment the counter 1,000,000 times. After the threads complete, we print the final value of counter, which will always be 2,000,000. C++17 introduced execution policies for many standard algorithms, allowing parallel execution without manual thread management. Standard execution sequential specifies sequential execution, while standard execution parallel enables parallel execution. Standard execution parallel_unsequenced allows parallel and vectorized execution. Algorithms like sort, for each, transform, and reduce support these execution policies. Here's how we can use parallel algorithms. We include the iostream, vector, algorithm, execution, and random headers. We create a large vector of integers named v with 10 million elements. We fill the vector with random values between 1 and 1000 using a Mersenne twister engine. Then, we sort the vector in parallel using standard sort with the standard execution parallel execution policy. Let's wrap up with some best practices. First, minimize shared data to reduce synchronization needs. Second, use resource acquisition as initialization for resource management, ensuring proper cleanup with lock guard, unique lock, and scoped lock. Third, prefer task-based parallelism with standard async and futures over managing threads directly. Fourth, be aware of false sharing and ensure thread local data is properly aligned to avoid cache contention. Fifth, test your concurrent code thoroughly, as concurrency bugs are often non-deterministic and hard to reproduce. Finally, consider using thread pools to reuse threads and avoid the overhead of thread creation and destruction. In conclusion, modern C++ provides powerful tools for concurrent programming. Choose the right abstraction level for your needs, from low-level atomics to high-level parallel algorithms. Thank you for joining me on this journey into C++ concurrency. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.